Okay, it started.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the November 13th, 2020 Electrical Work Examining Board meeting. I'd like to start off by acknowledging that all board members appear to be, all board members are present. We still have 2 unlimited journey persons and 3 public member openings available. I know there's a couple of unlimited journey persons names in the governor's office right now, but I think in view of everything going on with COVID and what have you, COVID's certainly taking precedence big time over there right now.
Hey, Larry.
Yes.
It looks like you lost John Yusa.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Rich. Okay. Yes. We always lose him. Yeah, we did lose him.
And Todd Birch just joined us.
Yep, I see that. Good morning, Todd. Well, I think at this point we'll keep going. I don't know what happened to John. Karen, maybe you could try to reach out to him if you could. You have his phone number?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Okay. So our next business order of business is the review of the last month's October 15th board minutes. Everybody's received a copy of those, I trust. And likewise, I hope that everybody has had an opportunity to review those. So if you get it started, I'll entertain a motion to accept that from somebody.
I'll make a motion to accept the October.
I'll make a motion, Larry Rich Bird, to accept the minutes from the
Okay.
October 15th.
All right.
I'll second.
Okay. Everybody's reviewed them. Is there any discussion on them? Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of minutes as written?
Aye.
Raise your right hand.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, so minutes approved. Everybody should have just recently this morning received a copy from Karen of the DCP complaint status report in their emails. Was there anybody that hasn't received that this morning? Everybody got a copy of it? Okay. And you might do better by keeping it up on screen if you can, only because when you print it, the font is so small, and it's been something we've been dealing with for a while, but we're working through it.
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
Ms. Hamill?
when they have it open on their screen, there should be plus and minus signs up at the top. And if you hit the plus signs, it will increase the visual font for it.
Okay, yep, I think they see that. So we'll take just a minute and we can scan over this thing quickly and look at it for the first time. On the very first item, Janita, the resolution was to contact legal. Can you explain or give us the reason for that?
Because that's a settlement agreement and that file was handled in legal.
It was, okay.
So that's why I put contact legal on there, because if legal worked that settlement agreement, any questions or information or background you need on it has to come from legal. It wasn't something that the inspectors or I did. It's not like an ABC. We did a
Right.
report. The report went to legal. They had a compliance meeting, and there was, after that compliance meeting, a settlement. But the exact results of that settlement agreement or any questions concerning it has to come from legal.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah, that's fine. I just want to, so the rest of the new board members have some sort of a understanding. Oh, look who's here. Miss O'Brien. Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, I was muted. Good morning.
Good morning. Our early bird. And I'll pay for that. That's all right. The next two, I see you have not got any more information from the complainant on. So they're kind of just file and monitor at this point.
Yep. We always try to get, if it's not an anonymous complaint and there's actually a person that we can contact and get more information, we always try to get the complainant to give us as much information as possible, so that we can proceed with an investigation. If they don't have it or they don't provide it, you know, it's kind of hard to keep proceeding with a file.
Yep, yep.
But we do maintain and do a file and monitor, as you correctly said, and we try to keep tabs on these people. And as the complaints come in from the complaint center and I get to review them and assign them, there are names, as you well know, sir,
Mhm.
that trigger a bell and that we definitely keep tabs on.
Right. Okay. Going down the next one down, close the file, dispute of facts and contractor licensed, no action.
Yep.
Can you explain that one a little bit?
When we say it's a dispute of facts, it means that the E1 in this matter and the complainant disagree on the allegations, and that the contractor is licensed, properly licensed, and in the review of the complaint allegations, it could simply be a financial thing, a money thing, and that sometimes the consumer will find out that my neighbor's cousin Joe, who might not be a licensed electrician, could have done it for me for half price, tells me that. So then I want to make sure that whatever issues I had or felt I spent too much money with an E1, well, I want my money back or this or that. If they allege code violations, we will go to the town and check with them. Was there a permit? Did they do a code Did they do a code inspection? Were there in fact any code violations? Yes or no? So based on whatever the allegations are, we will look at it, and the man is licensed. So that's why the inspector closed it as a dispute of facts. The contractor's licensed and there's no further action warranted. And it does say in the resolution side,
Yes.
civil matter. So when you see civil matter, it's a money thing. And we will send people to court because we can't get people money back.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Normally we don't go through every one of these, but for the sake of the new board members, I think it helps give them an explanation of what's going on.
Oh, no, that's fine. We can keep going if you want. That's fine. Works for me.
And we certainly have a little bit of time today to do that.
No, not a problem.
So.
Good morning, Larry, I'm back.
What's that? Oh, there you are. Hey, John.
I'm back.
Okay. John, we're looking at the complaint report right now that was emailed out this morning.
Yeah, I was listening to that. I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay, so that's where we're at, and we're on the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one down right now. And I'm having Janita explain how this works for the new board members. So looking at the fifth one down, close file as to consumer, C meaning consumer, wanted to have it closed. So obviously the complaint got resolved between the contractor and the consumer.
Right, and in situations like that, usually when we get involved and we send I have an inspection aide who assists me, who will do a letter to the respondent with a copy of the consumer's complaint. And when the inspector gets involved, sometimes we can just say, hey, to the contractor, do you really want us to have to investigate you? If it's a simple matter, if you go back and you finish the job, please do it. Is there some way you can stop whatever conflict you have between each other, come to an amicable resolution and fix it? We also still look at those files for licensing issues. Is the contractor licensed? We will ask them for to see the copy of the permit they obtained. Oh, did you send somebody to work for you there? Oh, are they a licensed journey person? Oh, you sent a journey person and a helper? Well, we don't have helpers in the electrical field. We have apprentices. So is your apprentice registered? And we will ask the contractor to give us copies of their contractor license, their employees' journey person's licenses, their apprenticeship cards, and a copy of the permit. Then we also want them to put it on company stationery. Oh, well, geez, did you display your license number? Oh, do you have a website? Oh, gee, I looked at your website. You failed to display your license number. Statute says on all advertisement, and we tell them that includes TV ads and your website. So we will look at those types of things. And if they're not registered, and then it's a violation. And then we will go from there.
Okay, great.
We try to get them to give us as much information as possible. And for the new board members, I'm trying to get my staff not to do the abbreviations like we've always been used to doing. Like FTD would be failure to display. You will see in the next couple, the AVC, which is an assurance of voluntary compliance. I'll explain that when we get down to those next couple. The other thing is we also tell the contractors, oh, statute says you and I and every other licensed contractor in the state are responsible for maintaining current records of all our employees, and that includes apprenticeship cards and contractor licenses and journey people licenses, and providing to the commissioner and the commissioner's agents upon request, and that's me and the inspectors. So they can't say, oh, I didn't know they weren't registered, or oh, I didn't know he or she didn't take their continuing ed. Because then we tell them you might really want to start making copies of their continuing ed certs and keep it in their personnel file with a current copy of their license. So.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Moving down to, I think it's number 7. This one was close the file because there's not enough information to substantiate the claim. And this was an anonymous complaint, and it was relative to people being unlicensed. Typically what happens here is just what it says. It's an anonymous complaint that comes to the department. The department investigates it, and as much as they can based on the information. And a lot of times it's not an adequate amount of information for them to go on.
So,
And there's no. Yes, yeah, Jackie.
So since this guy shows up twice, because he's in line 2 and line 7, is it actually 2 separate complaints from different individuals, or is it?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. And it happens, and what happens sometimes if a consumer, sometimes it's an ex-employee, or it could be a consumer, but we don't know, because anonymous is just that. They don't exist. We don't know who they are. And when we who do we go to get the information? There's nobody there to get, the department takes in anonymous complaints, and then that is done. And we did create with our IT group, Director Pamela Brown and myself with our IT group, an anonymous complaint on the online complaint side in an effort to help those journey people or apprentices or quote unquote helpers who can't get their contractor to register them for whatever reason. We gave them an opportunity to do online anonymous complaints, but once you check that box anonymous, my staff and I and the complaint center, we have no idea who you are.
Got it.
And people will make allegations, and sometimes the contractor says, oh, I fired a guy 3 months ago, and this is, I believe it's this. Well, you know what? Now you have more information than me or my staff, and it could be, but we don't know. But here, we still send them the anonymous complaint with a letter that says, here, read this, respond back to us.
Got it.
And when it's that anonymous situation, I've had board members or other people say, Janita, they probably lying through their teeth. They could be. How am I going to prove that?
Right. That makes sense.
How do I prove that? So that's where this is file and monitor. And this particular person, because he shows up twice, that's why he's on a file and monitor.
Okay.
It's like, okay, now for me, when I started signing complaints, if let's say in January, man's name shows up again, well, it's now there's maybe it's time we have an extended conversation with him and try and figure out, what's going on.
Alrighty.
Oh,
Thank you.
Pamela Brown, Director of Investigations. I apologize for being late. I had a meeting that ran over.
It's okay, Pam.
Hello, Larry. For 3 complaints or more, it doesn't take 3 complaints, but that's somebody we're going to look at a lot closely. We're probably going to make a referral up to our legal department for a compliance meeting, especially as we start to see patterns get you a fast track to legal. And to answer Jackie's question, the way that you can tell whether or not it's the same complaint, there should be on your report, you'll see a column for case file number, and those numbers, and that's for all of the new board members. The numbers will indicate whether or not it's the same file number. So you'll see 2019 or 2020, you just have to look at the number that follows. And that's how you can tell whether or not it's the same case or not. But on a different line, it's going to represent a different case.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Moving along to number 8. Again, this one, the resolution was that the respondent signed an AVC and paid $2,000 to the state as a fine and provided a restitution to the consumer of $3,260. Janita, I know you wanted to explain the AVC, so here's your opportunity.
Okay. For the new board members, AVC is an assurance of voluntary compliance. It is a document that was created back in 2005 with then Commissioner Farrell as a means and under Director Richard Maloney, who is long since retired. But it's an assurance of voluntary compliance. There's no admission of guilt, liability, or wrongdoing. However, in the investigation, the department and the person who signs it know that there were times where they might not have been in compliance with the Connecticut statutes, and that from the point of signing that assurance of voluntary compliance moving forward, they are telling the department that they are going to follow all the statutes and regulations governing their occupational trade and the licenses. The assurances of voluntary compliance are forwarded to Commissioner Siegel or whoever is the sitting commissioner at the time for their review and acceptance, and it's not accepted until the commissioner signs it. The assurance of voluntary compliance forfeitures, in this case, the inspector wrote fine, are based off of the 2016 Memorandum of Understanding between the boards and the department under then Commissioner Jonathan Harris, where they worked out a guidance for the investigation division as far as price range, as far as for violations. An unlicensed person will start at $1,000. Failure to display could be up to and including $500, and it follows with that. So that's where that would come from. In this case, the consumer, the inspector mediated to get the consumer the money, and the person paid the $2,000 AVC forfeiture, which the commissioner signed off on. We also do education and compliance outreach, and that means when somebody's friend might be in E2 and, oh, I was just helping out my friend, as in this case. No, that's not how it works. Please, here's the application. This is where you find it. Go get your E1. And no, you know what? We have a problem. And we will try to work it out so that the complainant is made whole and the person signs an assurance of voluntary compliance. And there is a cost associated with not being in compliance.
And as referenced by Janita, that MOU, memo of understanding, everybody has a copy of that. I put it in the original packet when you all first came on board, so that you have it, and we can discuss that at any time down the road with anybody.
Mr. Valeries?
Yes.
Before I forget, I would be remiss in not mentioning this. That MOU was also signed with my counterpart, Todd Birch, and the Department of Labor Apprenticeship Training is also a party to that memorandum of understanding. And if they get notice that somebody's out there operating or has unregistered apprentices, they will forward to us. If we find unregistered apprentices or somebody that's not registering people, we do share that information between our agencies. So I wanted to make sure that was said, and I do apologize for not saying that sooner.
No problem. Thanks, Janita.
No.
The next one, again, is an AVC that was signed, and it says the fine was, and paid the fine, file and monitor. Do you know what the amount of that fine was?
I want to say, and I will go back and double check. I want to say it was like $3,000. And for whatever reason, I don't know why it didn't pick up the money.
Yeah. Okay.
So that should be $3,000, and the total sum should be $5,000 total.
Right.
I will check on that file and have that information for you next time.
That's right. Your explanation was fine, Janita. I mean, and I know you'll check on it and address it. So that's fine. The next one down is unsubstantiated respondent works in New York and is taking E2 exam, file and monitor. Let's explain that one a little bit.
It's an anonymous
complaint.
complaint.
Anonymous, yeah, I see that.
And we, again, they get a copy of the complaint. We send it to them with a letter and we say, okay, what's going on here? The respondents saying, no, I don't work in Connecticut, never have. I work in New York and I'm taking the E2 exam in Connecticut. Well, but we have no way of being able to say where in Connecticut did this person work that now they're all of a sudden interested in taking the E2 exam.
Okay.
And the next one, I closed it because it was a duplicate. And this was GMT20201113, and a duplicate of the active complaint file 2020-227. And you see my initials there, JMH, Supervising Special Investigator, which are the initials of my title.
And is that the duplicate that was on the last report we had looked at?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. that's
Yep.
good stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So as I go through them, and if I see it soon enough on my queue that comes in from the complaint center, I try to have them deal with it right away. And sometimes we're all human. I missed it, so I closed it, but I made sure in the notes so that the board would know it's an active case and this is the file number that is active on that matter.
Okay. Janita, thank you very much for all that explanation. Any board members have any questions for Janita on any of that? No? Okay, great. Thanks, Janita. Appreciate it.
Not a problem, Mr. Chairman.
All right, moving along, under old business, discussion regarding potential changes to regulations and statutes. This has been on for a while, as we all know, and we've been pushing it forward for various reasons. A lot of it having to do with COVID and what have you. As an example, the regulations statute relative to continued education, they were originally drafted. There was some particulars that the board felt were in there, but actually were not actually in print. So there's some background work that I feel that we need to do on that, as well as taking a look at some of the other regulations relative to possibly exempting certain licenses, maybe from continued ed, taking a look at something like the sign people's license as an example, to the extent of what their scope is and is it necessary for them to really do continued ed and so forth. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to develop like 3 different task force, okay, to start working on some of these things. And I can only have 2 besides myself. I can only have 2 other people on the task force, any task force. So I kind of put together like 3 different task force, and I'd like to see if people would be willing to sit on those with me. And we would do those all through Zoom meetings. We would be less than a quorum, so that would make it a little bit easier. And then the objective is that we would make some reviews on different things, report back to the board, get a consensus from the board, overall board on recommendations. And then based on the board's recommendations, refer that over to the commissioner, Richard, and Leslie from a regulation statutory standpoint, and see if we can get some of these things cleaned up and what have you. So with that being said, I'd like to establish a continued education task force and label it as such. And I'd like to ask Rich Bird and Paul Costello if they would mind sitting on that.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. And what I will do on all these task force, I'll get a memo out to each of the task force with a Zoom date, and we can have a meeting and so forth. In addition to that, I want to label one statutes and regulations, and that's in a general sense. And I was going to ask John Yusa and Jackie if they would be kind enough to sit together on that with me.
Sure thing. I could do that.
And I think we still don't have John here, huh? Okay. Does that mean he gets to say by default, he's on it? I'll reach out to him. I'll reach out to him separately if he doesn't rejoin us at the meeting here.
He did come back in and then now he's not here again. So I don't know if he's having, I don't know what it is.
I don't know, I'm not sure either, so
Okay.
I think and maybe we'll have a course on the Zoom and what's the other one we do, Teams?
Teams.
So, all right, so thank Jackie, thank you. And then last was a review of the qualifications for the licenses. We got so many different license categories and what have you. And I was going to ask Peter Jennings and Chris Brown if I could ask you two to sit in on that.
Not a problem at all, Larry.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Great. Okay, so I will get some information out to you as a group the next week or so. I know our next board meeting is not scheduled till February, regular board meeting is not scheduled for February 19th. I think by that time or prior to that time, if we have to have another board meeting for some reason, I'd like to have some information to bring back to the board and with some recommendations. And I know timing is somewhat critical sometimes. Is definitely critical, but I know Leslie, you usually have a pretty booked agenda yourself, and today with COVID and what had not, I don't know if anybody knows when anybody's meeting or when anybody's doing anything, but at least we can get it on your plate.
Right. So, right. I mean, it's hard to know what will happen with the next legislative session. They plan on having a session, what it will look like, what they, who knows? We have, but just and we've already submitted our proposals for the 2021 session based on, and they were the same proposals we submitted in 2020, pretty much. We didn't make many changes beyond that because we had a pretty lengthy agenda for the 2020 legislative session, and none of that happened, of course, because the session really never, produced much. So, and none of our asks were worthy of being taken up in the special session, or almost none of them. So anyway, that's where we are right now for the 2021 session. On the regulatory end, though, I just want to flag so everyone knows the Regs Review Committee, the Legislative Regs Review Committee, is still meeting every month. They meet virtually now, and so they're still moving regs along. And so any regulatory changes that you all want to see happen, we're happy to work with you on that and get those through the process. Now, that being said, changing regs takes longer usually than changing statutes. Usually, and in this new world we're in with COVID, it's a little different. But anyway, the regs changes shouldn't have any COVID shouldn't have any impact on them at this point.
Okay, great. Thanks, Leslie. I appreciate that. And Leslie, I just wanted to also extend my thanks to you for all the work you're doing out there in Wyndham and Willimantic, particularly relative to COVID. I've seen situations where you're there at the testing sites doing your thing, and I think that's great. That's great.
Thanks, Larry. Yes, thank you. Yeah, we're working hard to try to get testing numbers up here since in the second wave, Wyndham was one of the towns that peaked first and became a hotspot first. So the governor's office asked, since I'm here and active in the town, if I would be their liaison for testing here. So I've been for fun. Yeah, for fun. I've been out and about working on getting testing numbers up. Thank you, Larry. Thanks for-
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, that takes care of the old business. And as I said, I'll get information out to each of the committees, task force, I should say, soon. Under new business, the application review working group, for some of the board members that are new, I sit on the on this working group that reviews applications. These are somewhat questionable applications that come in that aren't clean with just a DOL sign off letter that can automatically go through. There's no problems with them. These are questionable ones. And I can tell you that on November 9th, we met in, we worked on 12 different applications, electrical applications. There was a variety of things that took place on those applications and what they were for, whether they were for E1s, E2s, limited licenses, what have you. Some were approved to move forward to get tested, and others were sent back for lack of information or other supporting documents that we needed. So right now that seems to be moving quickly. We were meeting a little bit more frequently than once a month, but we're going to try to push that off to once a month, hopefully. Item number 2, update on our October 15 vote regarding looking to modify or have another executive order to extend the deadlines for 2020 continued education requirements. I spoke with the commissioner late yesterday via text, and she has submitted the executive order over to the governor's office to make that change. However, it has not come back yet. We haven't heard anything. And quite frankly, with the increase in the COVID, I think that's pretty much taking up a lot of time over in the governor's office right now. She did suggest that if I wanted to reach out to Jonathan Harris over there and see if I could get a further update. I was not able to reach him today. And quite frankly, it's over there. It'll get worked out in due time, in proper time, I think. And we'll see what happens. Yeah, Leslie, maybe you have more information.
I'm meeting with him on another issue at 11, so I will flag it for him while I'm meeting with him too.
Oh, great. All right. Let me know how you make out.
I will.
And right. Thank you. Item 3, continued education providers for 2021. The following have all submitted, been reviewed and approved. Alternative Energy Solutions, J Learning, New York Communication and Training Center, Tungus Community College, not listed here, but we're also approved with statewide inspections, and Brian Ferreira, which is from Massachusetts. So those could be added to the list. I have no correspondence. I don't know if our board secretary has any any correspondence. If I can disturb her from her relaxing time at the beach there.
No, there's nothing else. No.
No. Okay. Comments or concerns from anybody else here on the call today in the meeting? No one. Okay. Any questions here by the board? Okay. Well, like I said, it was going to be a relatively quick meeting, and 35 minutes. That's not bad. So with that being said, make a motion to adjourn the meeting. And Mr. Byrd.
Second.
You need somebody to make the motion, Larry?
I think you were about to, yes.
Yes, I will make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Paul, you seconded, I guess?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, again, I just want to ask everybody to please stay healthy. Listen to the warnings that we're getting on the COVID. Enjoy Thanksgiving the best you can. I don't know how everybody's gonna fight over the drumstick with being 6 feet apart, but it's gonna be interesting. And likewise, have a good Christmas holiday. We will be all back together for sure February 19th. And enjoy. Thank you all.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank you,
holiday.
Mr. Chairman.
Take care, Nick.
Okay.